Welcome to the Sales Influence Podcast, where we talk about finding the why in how people buy. I'm your host, Victor Antonio. Man, thank you for joining me today. Today, it's not going to be so much about sales. Kind of. It's more about motivation, what drives us, but even worse, what stops us. So I'm listening to Simon Sinek. If you know who he is, he's the gentleman who wrote the book called Start With Why. Great book. I think I've mentioned it in my past podcasts. He's got a new book called The Infinite Game, and it's a fascinating book. Nonetheless, I was listening to watching one of his videos or one of his presentations he was doing. And again, I'm a Simon Sinek fan. I really love the way he expresses ideas. And he tells his story. And, you know, I've heard the story before, but for some reason, this morning, it really hit bottom with me in terms of what that story really means. So he describes the story as follows. Him and his friend did this marathon, one of those Roadrunner marathons, right? And at the end of the marathon, they typically give away, something you can eat, some apples, some bagels, whatever, bananas. And sure enough, him and his friend had finished the race, and Simon says to his friend, "Let's go get a bagel." Well, his friend looks at the line formed to get a bagel, and he says, it's too long. The line's too long. I don't want to wait for a bagel. Simon Sinek says, but they're free. It's a free bagel. And the guy's still like, I just don't want to get the bagel. And sure enough, Simon walks over there, as he tells a story, kind of slides in between a couple of people, grabs two bagels, walks back over to their friends, and they split the bagels, right? And so what's interesting, he says the following. He says at that moment, I'm sure he had to think about this. It probably wasn't at that moment, but that was the moment that probably triggered the following thought. And this is what he shares. He says, people have a way of looking at things, and there's two ways you can look at the world. Optimist versus pessimist, right? Optimist versus cynic. And he said the following. This is the phrase that really hit bottom with me. He said, some people see the thing that they want. Other people see the thing that prevents them from getting the thing that they want. Let me say that again, because this is really important. Some people see the thing they want. Other people see the thing that prevents them from getting what they want. He could only see the bagel. His friend could only see the line. And I remember years ago, I heard this phrase called, success is all about never looking down. Never look at the obstacles, look at the objective. In other words, there are going to be obstacles, but if you focus on the obstacles, you'll never do anything. Now, this is called focus and determination. See, when you're focused on what you want, the outcome, not what's going to prevent you from getting there, when you're focused on the outcome, your momentum, your motivational momentum will help you get there. And it'll overcome, go around, go under, go through whatever obstacle is presented in your way. In other words, you begin to think about, how do I get around this problem? How do I solve this problem? Because I'm trying to get to my objective. See, if you're in selling, for example, you have a goal. Your job is to get to that goal. What is that number, that revenue target I have to hit? And you're going to face objections, and you're going to find obstacles that are going to get in your way. And your job is to say, how do I get around these obstacles? Customers are saying, no, how do I become better at selling? How do I become better at finding my ideal client? Everything is about the outcome, not the obstacles. In other words, you're focused on the bagel. You're not focused on the line to get the bagel. Again, you'll probably have to deal with the line. The lines are the obstacles, people there. But again, some people see the world in terms of what they want. Others see it in terms of what prevents them from getting what they want. And when you think about that, it really makes sense from a selling standpoint, even from a business standpoint, even from a success standpoint. Think about it. How many friends do you have, or do you know, that constantly, every year, always talk about what they're going to do, what they want to do, but they never take action? And what happens is maybe that if we scratch the surface, dig a little deep, what we might find is that they're busy focused on the line, the reasons they can't get something, instead of focusing on the bagel, the reason they can get something. See, it's easy to kind of talk yourself out of something. It's harder to not only talk yourself into something, but stay in the game and keep talking to yourself to stay in the game. In other words, it's easy to think about, I want to do that, but as soon as a roadblock hits, you give up. That's a lot of people. In other words, they see obstacles, they don't focus on the objective. In the past, I said sales is about ABC: attitude, drives your behavior, which will drive your consequence. If your attitude towards something is, I can't get it, there's no way, I don't want to stand in line, I don't want to put in that much time. If that's your attitude, the behavior will follow, and that is you'll do nothing. You'll simply do nothing. And so this story, which I love, it's very simple, is that people focus on what they want, or people focus on the things that prevent them from getting what they want. So I want you to ask yourself this question: what's been preventing you from getting what you want? And maybe that's the fear that you're sensing sometimes. For example, I know a lot of people say, Victor, I'm just afraid of selling. I always ask the question, why are you afraid? He says, well, I'm just not comfortable with talking to people. To which I say, neither was I, and neither am I still. Sometimes I don't feel comfortable talking to people. Well, I don't like being pushy, Victor. Well, neither do I, right? Well, I don't want to come across as too salesy. Neither do I. No matter what they tell me, I'm like, neither do I. But see, when you frame your argument in terms of what you can't do, you see the obstacles, then you won't do it. But I always shift people's mindset. Hopefully I'll shift yours. We're not salespeople. We're not salespeople in the sense that we're there to sell something to somebody, even whether they want it or not, or whether they need it or not. That's not our job. The job of a true sales professional is to sell something of value and then get value in return. I sell you a great product or service, and that product or service benefits you so greatly that you make a lot of money or you live a better life, whatever the case may be. Then I expect to receive value and get paid for that. See, that's a win-win. That's selling. So again, if you're trying to reach your goal, you're trying to get that bagel could be a commission that you're shooting for. Remember, focus on how you're going to get there. Don't focus on how you're not going to get there. What's going to stop you from getting there? There's so many reasons that you can make it, but too often we focus on why we can't make it. It's for the exact same reason when we go online to social media, we always look at our likes. You know, it's funny how I have YouTube videos. I can have 100 likes, and then I'll focus on the one thumbs down. You ever do that? You ever focus on the one thumbs down when you had 100 over here? That's how the brain works. Not everybody's going to like you. Not every time you go out there, not everybody's going to accept what you're saying. That's part of the game. That's part of the game. So keep in mind that if you want to be successful, there are obstacles, or you can focus on the objective. And that's all the story is about. So as we're moving towards the end of the year, I want you to start asking yourself, if you're hitting your goal, you're hitting whatever objective you set for yourself, congratulations, welcome to the club. If you're not, ask yourself, are you focusing in on the right things? And if you are, on the wrong things. And if you are, shift your perspective. Let's get back to what we can do. Let's not look at what prevents us. Let's look at what can help us get to where we're going. And that is it for this motivational sales influence podcast. Don't forget to leave me some feedback on iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. As always, let me know what you think. I greatly appreciate it. Also, if you haven't checked out the Sales Velocity Academy, the question is, why not? More courses, more videos on how you can sell more faster. So again, if you're serious about increasing your sales ability and velocity, go to salesvelocityacademy.com. That's salesvelocityacademy.com. Lastly, I want to thank you for listening. This is Victor Antonio, always reminding you, selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care. Hi, I'm Victor Antonio. I'm an author, sales trainer, and keynote speaker. I'm often asked, what makes a great speaker? Is it someone who delivers real content that the audience can use? Is it someone who engages the audience so they're part of the learning experience? Or is it someone who can motivate an audience to push them beyond their comfort zone and discover new abilities? The answer is yes. But the most important thing to remember is that I'm not there to look good. I'm there to make my client look good. Simply put, it's never about me, and it's always about them.